Welcome back to the United Pubcast. Mason Mount is not quite a Manchester United player yet, but all roads lead to him having just completed his medical at Carrington, or if not, quite advanced in the medical stages. So we aren't doctors, but everything that we are hearing is that has gone pretty straightforward. So, Larry, here we are, start of July, a little bit later than what we look, still in plenty of time. The players are only just arriving back in Carrington today, but it does look like we have our first man in regards to a new sign-in over the line this season.
Yeah, Mason Mount looks like it's going to happen, Tom. No surprises, the status quo, but it's good news. It's good news. I think it's easy to get bogged down in, Ten Hag's budget this, and we can't afford that, and Nana, and no, we're not going for Nana, we're going for someone else, and I can't keep up with all the false narratives. Nonetheless, it's pleasing to see United getting their first deal over the line. And I think Mason Mount might have – this signing has the potential to be a surprise packet. I think it's one that doesn't really – I think we've had to falsify our excitement for it, if I'm being honest. Would that be fair? I think that there's an element of that. But
there's probably part of that. I think that's a sort of a result of the nature of our fan base, especially online. You either love it or you hate it. You hate this player, you love this player, and it's become so sort of divisive. And I think a lot of the initial pushback against Mason Mount from sort of the big accounts and sort of big voices out there, so against sort of the arrival of Mason Mount, which, hang on, if he's going to be a Man United player, you do need to see the positives and back him. So I think the large chunks of the fan base, probably you and I included, I think, okay, hang on, he's not first choice, but hang on, if Eric Ten Hag wants him, there must be something there. Well, he's a good player. He plays for Chelsea. He's an England international. So when you start to sort of search for those positives, it sort of increases your confidence in it. Like we wouldn't have felt those confidences before Eric Ten Hag was linked with him.
It's a valid point. I'm not too sure if that's the case. I think it's just. I think we've all got an idea in our heads of what type of midfielder United need, and I don't think Mason Mount fits that picture. I think all of us look at the United lineup and we're like, oh yeah, I could see how Frankie de Jong improves that midfield. And then you see
take
Mason
away the
Mount
price though.
More advanced playmaker.
What was our probably big need at the end of last season in regards to midfield? Like the last 5-6 games, what was the real concern in midfield?
Well, it was a lack of creativity.
I thought it was Christian Eriksen. I thought it was can sometimes do what Eriksen does, but do it a little bit better.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think Bruno is very creative in the final third, but there's no one who maybe in that middle part of the pitch from defense to midfield. You're right. There was an absolute lack of creativity when Eriksen doesn't play. And look, Mason Mount covers that, but I think I've been trying to convince myself that he's going to not have the defensive frailties that Eriksen provides. I mean, look at the Manchester Derby FA Cup final. Eriksen showed the worst of himself. And I think Mason Mount's better than Eriksen in that respect. But does he address United's problem in the heart of that midfield? I'm trying to convince myself he does, but I'm not 100% sure, Tom.
Do you think, actually, just say good day to some people in the chat. Justin, good to see you as always. George and Rob, good to have you with us, mate. Have we made a bid for Højlund? Does look like Manchester United had submitted, looks like their second bid. Neil Custers from The Sun has confirmed a bid. We'll get into that a little bit after the Mason Mount talk, but definitely an interesting discussion around Højlund at the moment in regards to Eric Ten Hag's chase for goals. But on Mason Mount, Larry, a concern. Now, tell me if I'm lazy or I'm a little bit sort of too harsh on Mason Mount here, but I did see Jesse Lingard pop up today on my timeline in regards to potentially move to the MLS. Now, is he going to go to Saudi Arabia? That would be great for him, or MLS. I think the MLS would be a great move for Jesse Lingard, to be honest, just with his lifestyle, what he wants to achieve. I think that should be quite a good move for him at this stage. Sorry?
What does he want to achieve?
No, just in regards to his brand, his lifestyle, I could see him enjoying his time in terms of, he looks like at the moment, last 2-3 years, he hasn't really enjoyed his football. I just think he had that little spell at West Ham. I think he needs to go and enjoy himself. I think he'll do that in America. So best luck to Jesse Lingard. But the reason I bring up Lingard is a huge concern I do have in regards to Mason Mount. And again, this might be lazy. My sort of idea might be misdirected here. But you cast your mind back to how bad Chelsea's season was. Now, it wasn't just Mason Mount, it was all the players. They're all shocking. Every Chelsea fan wanted red of all the players. There was a game, I don't know who, they lost at home to someone. A shocking result. One of the lower teams in the league beat them at Stamford Bridge. Monday morning, Mason Mount was doing a TikTok that went viral. And I'm just thinking that gave me so many sort of alarm bells and sort of flashbacks to sort of Jesse Lingard and Paul Pogba. And if you put the profile of player in regards to potentially a good player at a big club, can they make that next step? England international, Mason Mount, Jesse Lingard, maybe potentially similar, a different type of player, but that status within the game. I'm just thinking that is where a bit of not so much the player, not so much the business. If it doesn't go well for Mason Mount, I think he's a very easy target just from the type of person he sort of that we visualize him as. If he's doing TikToks after a 1-1 draw with Nottingham Forest at Old Trafford, I don't think that's going to go down well. And then not to say that will be the case, but it has been the case at Chelsea. And I just think that has sort of irked so many Manchester United fans in the past. Have I been burnt a little bit too hard, or am I a bit harsh?
I think it'd being a bit harsh. I think Mason Mount, let's also remember, Mason Mount's 24 years of age. Jesse
Lingard was doing it at 30, however old he is.
Yeah, but that's exactly my point. Lingard's doing it at 30. I think Mason Mount stopped short of doing. I think with Jesse Lingard, it's a combination of the way he dresses and the dancing, and I think there's a little bit of and the dabbing and all of that sort of thing. Mason Mount, like, yeah, sure, he did a TikTok video, but I mean, like, that's fine. I have no issue with a young man being on social media. Not for me, but
as an employee of Manchester United and sort of how many millions of fans sort of invest themselves in terms of the emotion towards the club, in terms of Monday morning after a shocking, like, let's say we lose 7-0 at Anfield and Mason Mount comes out. I'm not saying he's going to do this, but he comes out with a TikTok after we lose at Anfield. I'm just thinking, doesn't he have some type of responsibility? Yes, he can enjoy himself, do what he wants. But in terms of he has a public sort of presence on the internet, I'm just thinking, do the club and players have to have a bit of a responsibility or something not in their contract, but an agreement type thing?
Look, mate, I think some of this is like Chris stole the words out of my mouth. Some of this is generational, right? I think with respect, mate, you're not old, though you act like a 60-year-old. But I think for people who are in their mid-30s to understand people in their early to mid-20s now, it's different. And that's just the way of the world. Even people your age,
But do you see those players having huge success? The best players in the world are the ones who don't do that.
Mate, Cristiano Ronaldo posts on social media every second day. But
he's not doing TikToks. Come on.
He's not doing TikToks, but that's because of his age. But Ronaldo was doing perfume ads and underwear photo shoots and everything that was the equivalent.
He was not doing that after getting smashed at Anfield or smashed away at Highbury. He wasn't
at Anfield. But also, you have to remember for Mason Mount, again, 23, 24 years of age at the time of, TikTok video coming out. But also, respectfully, playing for Chelsea and playing for Manchester United are different. And I think that, one, with maturity, two, with the people around him, like, I got to be honest, Chelsea were a basket case. And you look at Chelsea last season, that means that not only were they struggling on the football pitch, but the people around Mason Mount and the people around Chelsea, crucially, there was no level of accountability at any level. So I think that's where it does differ. Chris making the point here, Ronaldo doesn't run his Instagram. Yeah, of course he doesn't, but don't tell me he's not being... He has access to his own Instagram. He knows what's getting posted on his Instagram.
My concerns around Mason Mount is not to say you can't do that or don't enjoy yourself. It's just I can see it going wrong. I just, unfortunately, I hope it's the furthest thing in the case, and I do like the signing. I do like the player. It's just if things don't go well, he's going to have an easy target on his back, and he has to mature, because we've seen this before. Unfortunately, we have seen this with Jesse Lingard, someone who was in the same sort of stage of his career, ready to kick on and be that big man, and just never quite got going.
I got a like-for-like comparison in the United team. I got to be honest with you, and I want to be clear before I say anything, like as a prerequisite. This isn't me trying to attack this person or anything like that. The way Marcus Rashford dresses is actually quite provocative to the everyday person. I got to be honest, like with all the chains and the shirts and. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like he kind of dresses like an American rapper. And if Rashford wasn't performing, and if Rashford didn't score 30 goals a season, I promise you, people would be abusing him.
You perform it 100%. Perform it and you do what you want.
But there's a fine line there. So like these footballers go on TikTok, dress like a rapper, wear lots of chains, wear your Louis Vuitton, be part of a Louis Vuitton ad or whatever it is. If you're performing and if you're doing the business, you're free to do as you like. But if you're not performing, you got to be prepared the next time you're posting on social media. Rashford's doing the business, so he can get away with it. Mason Mount's going to have to be conscious of the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. I'll just bring up here in regards to a fixture of the Manchester United transfer window is the van rolling into Old Trafford, and there is Mason Mount in the back of there arriving at Carrington. But there's also another arrival here. God Anthony has arrived as well, so that they are starting to trickle in for pre-season training. I'm sure they're not training today. They're probably doing all their they're probably joining Mason Mount on the medical table and doing all their sort of health checks and everything, hoping everything is all straightforward. But yeah, all those concerns I have around Mason Mount, that's just as I said, Larry and I discussed this before, the pessimist in me, I just see potentially issues. If it does go wrong, Mason Mount unfortunately has an easy target now. Fingers crossed he can perform. He can do what he wants then. And I have full faith there at Ten Hag, and Mason Mount can get it over the line when it matters. But Justin here, Garnacho posting when he's injured with a vape in the background might make a headline, but then all be forgotten for these boys. We'll judge them for how they play. God, another one vaping. God, it's just...
Don't start me.
Yeah, I don't get it. I was seeing Garnacho drop a little bit of a hint, potentially a cryptic hint around number 7. That's maybe a discussion for another day. I'm not completely sold on that, but it does look like that could be the case now.
Can I say with Garnacho, I could do a separate video on this. I might just let one line in, and then because I honestly think you and I could do an episode on this because I think it's a whole talking point. The way Garnacho plays, he needs to add a lot more to his game. If he's gonna be at the top level for Manchester United, he's got to add a lot more to his game. That taking nothing away from what he achieved this season, he looked good, and he looked good in the FA Cup final, absolutely. But for the style of player he is, and for the skill set he has, and even at the under-18s when he looked good, whatever, it's the same thing. If you actually think of that goal he scored in the under-18s that went viral, and the way he's looked dangerous for United, it's the same type of goal. It's Garnacho in behind. He's got to add a lot more to his game if he's going to make it at United. And I'm telling you, next season's going to be the real test. And don't be surprised if he falls back a little bit, because there's going to be more video on him, which means opposition coaches are going to have a better idea of what he can do. So that's not to say he won't make it, but if you give him the number 7, you're putting the spotlight on him, and I don't think he needs that at this stage of his career.
No, look, I tend to agree very much, but as you said, that's a sort of wider discussion we can definitely focus an episode towards. But if you think Garnacho should be number 7, let us know, and leave a like on the video while you are there. It'd be very much appreciated. You are holding your phone as we speak, so one click of a button will go a long way for us. But Larry, the other man on this, what do we call it? YouTube podcast show? We're doing a YouTube show. Rasmus Højlund. It does look like Neil Custis from the Sun. Now, what do you think of the Sun? He obviously has been quite close to Manchester United over the years. He randomly follows me on Twitter. I've never said anything positive about him on Twitter, but he randomly follows me. No idea why. I have no interaction with him, but he must have seen something I said. Hopefully it wasn't too derogatory about him when Louis van Gaal picked on him for eating donuts. But in regards to Rasmus Højlund, Neil Custis has alluded to a second bid, around £40 million has gone in. Like Mason Mount, I welcome the player because you obviously Erik Ten Hag and the world of football does see a potentially very bright future for this kid. In terms of what Manchester United need, we're not shopping for a kid to come in and have a good career at Manchester United. What we're shopping for at the moment is someone to score 35, 40 goals and win Manchester United the Premier League. That's currently what we're shopping for. And if we're buying him to be that man, unfortunately, I just don't see a situation where it proves to be successful in terms of what we want. He might come on and have a great career at Manchester United. Larry has potentially dropped out. Fingers crossed he can go back in. So what are you thinking in regards to Erik Ten Hag and Manchester United's expectation of Højlund if he is the number 1 striker or the number 1 target as a striker?
If he's the number 1 target, it tells me Ten Hag's being seriously hamstrung by whatever this budget is. Because with all due respect, like Højlund, 8 goals in Serie A? I think it's less than that. I think he scored 8 goals in total. I don't think all of those were in Serie A. I think it's 6 goals in Serie A. So, look, he's not the one. I'm sorry. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. That's not to say he won't go on and have a good career. But he is a very much, same thing, kind of one-trick pony type of striker, very much relying on his pace, gets in behind, scores goals. Now, that's worked for Erling Haaland, but Erling Haaland is a different beast. Bigger body, and has proven it at every level of the game, and has done it in Germany, which, and not just done it in Germany, was scoring 20-plus goals in Germany. In fact, his goals to games was very close.
He's doing it in the Champions League.
Yeah, exactly. Hoyland hasn't done it in the Champions League, and even in Serie A, he shows glimpses, he shows potential. But if he's our first choice target up front, seriously, that's embarrassing. It's not good. And whatever FFP, whatever, it just talks to everything that epitomizes the Glazers' ownership. It just shows the mismanagement. It shows the failure to move on players for a good price. It shows the poor recruitment, which has led to being unable to sell players. Just a holistic picture. Manchester United, given the money that they generate in terms of revenue, seriously, it's not acceptable that you're backing quote unquote this manager with a 20-year-old striker. Like, seriously, give me a break. Manchester United should be in there for the likes of Vlahovic and what's his name? Having a mind blank. Benfica striker did well at the World Cup. Ramos.
Yeah, Gonçalo Ramos.
Harry Kane should be a Manchester United player. There's no excuse for that not to happen, Tom. A club that was properly run, that would happen, but we're not a proper run football club, and that's why you're seeing us linked with 20-year-olds to lead the line.
I want to go back to Harry Kane before we finish the discussion around Hoyland. Harry Kane is my next point, but I'll just bring it up here, which is sort of the tendency I've seen in regards to Hoyland scored 8 league goals and 1 cup goal last season. He's a very poor finisher. He has so much to learn. Obviously, at his age, so much to learn. You can't sort of judge a career yet, which I know you're not doing there, Al, but I have the same feel. When I watch the YouTube highlights, because I haven't seen Atalanta play this season, the only times I have seen Hoyland is throughout my YouTube scouting. And if I watch like a 5-minute highlight package of Hoyland, tell you what I see a lot of, Larry.
Go on.
Missed chances. He misses. They're on his highlight reel, and I just think, God, that's not something you want to be promoting. And not often you see that. Usually a highlight reel is nothing but goals, but a lot of his highlights are misses. Unfortunately, now he does extremely well sometimes to get in those positions, and he's very raw. And his sort of future as a great footballer might not be as a deadly striker. It might be as a wide player. It might be as an attacking midfielder. So who knows what the sort of future does hold.
Rashford at the same age. If you think of what Rashford looks like at 20 years of age in the Manchester United team, get in behind striker, worked hard, scored goals. Now, Rashford gradually has added more to his game, definitely more trickery, stronger, more tricks to his bow. So, you're right. You don't want to write him off, but you're right. The attributes he has, he could easily become a winger. It's not.
I guess you're saying reminds me of Mudryk, and look, fingers crossed he turns out. I think Mudryk's woeful, but that physical trait of obviously what we've discussed with Garnacho in regards to he has all the abilities to be exciting and go past players, but suddenly when you get a little bit older, you pick up an injury or a defender knows 1 or 2 tricks in the book, you're going to have to change things. And at the moment, Hoyland has all the attributes to sort of physically impose himself and sort of scare defenders, put them on the back foot. But suddenly when he's out of form and the team's not in form and he has to change something up and sort of mix things up, he's going to – and look, I'm sure he will add those attributes and traits to his game. We just don't have those yet. And unfortunately, the position we're in, Larry, we need it now. Well, we can't sort of buy a player, and so let's hope you have a good career. Let's see if you can win a Champions League for us in 2030. Eric Ten Hag's job's on the line. If we finish outside the top 4, can you imagine the reaction towards these players and the manager? And I'm just thinking, look, I would still have full faith in Eric Ten Hag because it's an extremely sort of cutthroat league. Like, there's so many good teams who can finish in the top 4. There's so many teams who can win the league. Some great teams are going to finish outside the top 4 this season. So I'm not sacking him for not making the Champions League, but there's a very real possibility that's going to happen. And I'm just thinking that is why it's so desperate for Eric Ten Hag and Manchester United to. Unfortunately, we are a club built on youth and patience, but in the business we're in, especially if we're talking about state ownership sort of coming in, forget the history of the club, forget the tradition of the club. This is about winning today. And I just think that is where the focus should shift, in my opinion, to, at all cost, the certain striker down at Spurs.
Yeah, you're right. And it's also really important for people like you and me to come on to our YouTube channel and make sure that, 1, we're holding the Glazers accountable, but 2, should this transfer window go sour, because it absolutely has the potential to be awful, that we are letting the United fans know who watch our content to say, if United finish 5th or outside the top 4, don't blame the manager. Because based on what our current business is and where I'm expecting us to be in terms of what's going to come in or out, I think there's a very real possibility that happens. Because Eric Ten Hag is a very good coach. But if United don't improve the squad, I mean, if we were entering into the season tomorrow, based on the signings Liverpool have made, Liverpool replace us in the top four. Liverpool were right behind us, and they've strengthened their midfield. Their midfield's now better than ours, as far as I'm concerned. So I think they would. I think so.
Yeah, but I don't agree. But there's probably an argument there.
In terms of depth, I think because United are the problem with United's 11 at the moment is that they're one injury away from something that drops off majorly coming in. When Eriksen goes down, Fred comes in. There's a massive drop-off. When Casemiro gets injured, it's a catastrophe. He can't be replaced at the moment. If Rashford goes down, United are in all sorts of trouble. If Martial goes down, United don't have a striker, and he's barely a striker. It's just chaos. Sancho and Antony are unproven, definitely not showing any level of consistency, so you can't rely on them. So United need a lot of things to go right, even with their current group of players, let alone the absolute surgery that is needed to the starting 11.
Yeah, no doubt. Tom here, good to see you, mate. There's a serious chance Mount may be our only signing if we don't get a bargain. So I don't agree. The feeling is there. I share the feeling. I don't think that's the case. But I remember there was that season, God, must have been 6-7 years ago at Arsenal. They only signed Peter Cech. They signed Peter Cech from Chelsea for about 5 or 10 million. And that was the only signing. Could you imagine a Manchester United window where you just sign a goalkeeper? Now, maybe there's a bit of excitement around a goalkeeper signing now, but you know the feeling. that was a shocking window. That was prime Arsenal fan TV those days. But Box here with a chat. Now, forget the pronunciation of this guy, but the final goalkeeper, I believe. I'll go Bill Jow, I'm not sure. But for 20 million, Mason Mount for 55 million, Højlund for 55 million equals 130 million. Is that the budget? Larry, you were discussing the budget. Just your one, either feelings around a so-called budget or an actual mathematical number on it. What are you feeling in around that discussion? Because it is usually not really a discussion for Manchester United fans, but this window, off the back of the business last year, we are starting to look at numbers and okay, he went for this much, that means we have this much to spend. And I'm just thinking sell to buy, etc. Just your current feelings in and around how much money do Manchester United really have to spend?
Look, I never think. I think whatever gets reported and whatever we think, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I never think United go into a transfer window saying it's this number and that's it. I think there's a number, and I think that number can move depending on who and what it is. But look, it's very clear United don't have a lot to spend. If I were to guess, I'm going to guess it's somewhere in the region of 120 to 150. It has to be said that it's early on in the transfer window. And if it's early on in the transfer window, you don't want to go blowing your budget early. So I think that's why you're seeing a lot of reports of United saying, Ten Hag's got restricted budget, or we're not going to go too hard for this player because of the budget, etc. You want to start low. And then once we get toward the end of the transfer window, depending on who goes out, I think United I think you might see us do more business later. Now, of course, in terms of Ten Hag's preparation, that's not ideal. But, unfortunately, that's just where we're at the moment.
I wouldn't put this in the pile, in a sort of priority pile, but in regards to sort of weighing up our midfield at the moment, okay, Mason Mount comes in, let's confirm him as a signing. Let's say if we've been smart, you could see a situation very realistically where one of Fred or McTominay leaves, so you're going to lose one there. We've obviously had the questions over Christian Eriksen and his fitness. You got the obvious risk of missing Casemiro for 10 games a season through suspension sort of thing. I'm just thinking one of the forgotten men in regards to I forget who put the story out the other day. It might have been Fabrizio Romano, I'm not sure. But in regards to Bayern Munich's valuation, it's more so towards what your thinking was 6 months ago compared to I was thinking far more expensive. But it does look like Bayern Munich, as George puts here, Sabitzer available for 17 million. I still think, no, I'm not going to lose any sleep if we don't sign Sabitzer. I don't think he's a must go out and get him. I just think if he is available for that, in regards to always the issues we do find ourselves in looking at our midfield come November, December, January, I just think this bit of business here, I'd be happy for Man United to go out and do it. I know it's not priority.
Where would he play now? Like with Mason Mount signing now, like where does he even play, and when does he play? Like the where is obvious. The when is okay. Erik Ten Hag's rotation. If we go like last season, he doesn't play. In regards to Erik Ten Hag, goes full strength every single game. But Erik Ten Hag is going to have to learn. He's going to have to rotate.
And look, Donny van der Beek's not playing. If one of Fred and McTominay goes, okay, Fred and McTominay they play 30 times a season for Man United. They're going to get games. If one of them leaves, Sabitzer will take those 30 games. And I'm just thinking, we all play these games in our mind that they're never going to play, but players do get their games.
Sabitzer can occupy the areas of the pitch that Fred and McTominay do, but not his preferred position. I think we saw that early on. He got asked to play in the 6, and he went hiding the way McTominay does. So that's definitely not his game. And I think if you're going to ask him to do that, you're better off getting someone on a free or getting an unproven youngster in the midfield. If you're going to sign Sabitzer, sign him as a 10. Otherwise, don't sign him at all. And the fact that we've now signed Mason Mount and we have Eriksen on the books, both who are capable of playing in that central position, I just don't see the need for him.
This makes me feel old. Al's saying, please notice Spitzer, he's bang average plus injury prone plus old. He's in his 20s. We've got to a stage where players in their 20s are old. And I just think it's... well, okay, the last time I checked, that was close to your 20s. But he's just... Look, again, I'm not going to lose it. No, so I don't think it's a priority. I don't think we should be breaking the bank for Sabitzer. Far from it. He's definitely not sort of going to nail home a starting spot for Manchester United. But just in regards to if we are going to find ourselves in a situation, which we do every window, no matter what midfielders we sign Paul Pogba, De Bruyne, whoever we're going to sign, we always go, our midfield's not strong enough. We need this, we need that. It's simply the life of a Manchester United fan. I just think if it's available and cheap and Eric Ten Hag likes him, I would go for it. But definitely not a priority.
Our midfield depth has been crap for 10 years. Even the year when we won the league, same thing. Like, Carrick was the heart of everything we did. If you pulled Carrick out of that winning Premiership side, we wouldn't have gone anywhere close to winning the league. Got to be honest. We just wouldn't have. I don't know what it is with United in midfield, but we haven't had depth in the midfield probably since, I don't know, 2008, back when Anderson was good.
Yeah, Tommy was a shout in regards to Aston Villa. I'm currently winning the transfer window with the signings Tielemans and Pau Torres, 2 good players, and got them relatively cheap. But I just think Pau Torres is the one for me. Tielemans has always divided Manchester United fans. Sometimes we should go on and spend 50 million on him. Sometimes, no, he's not good enough. Only get him on a free. That's been a very tricky one in regards to let Leicester's finish. I think Leicester played a lot to do with that.
Yes and no. If you watched enough of Leicester last season, which for whatever reason I did, he didn't look interested. Now, granted, I think it is when you know you're at a certain level in terms of ability. I half get it. But then you look at someone like Maddison who continued to perform. Then you say, all right, well, if he can't do it when times are getting tough for Leicester, is he really built for United? I think he is the perfect prototype of a mid-table Premier League player, where he's got all the ability in the world, and if he was more consistent, he does play for a top side. But that's the difference. Like, how many times have we seen in the Premier League over the last 20, 30 years where there's a player who on his day tears you apart? But that's the point. It's on his day. And that's the difference. That's why some of the players are good enough for Manchester United and some are good enough for QPR. It's that level of consistency in their game. Every player in the Premier League has a level of ability. It's the consistency that gets you to the top.
We're talking about Casemiro potentially. If we are going to add, besides Mason Mount, where else would you add in midfield? And a huge issue is so much. Well, if Casemiro's out, okay, how can we replace Casemiro? This name, now I don't know how reliable the sources is, but this name Ramo brings up in regards to has popped up in the last 24 hours. Amrabat obviously started the World Cup for Morocco. I think there is something about a little bit of news now. Very likely, probably just using Manchester United to sort of facilitate a move elsewhere or a contract, but. Maybe steer it away from Amrabat, keep him in the discussion if you want. But just in regards to, I've just mentioned Sabitzer there, or I've mentioned Fred and McTominay, but one of them potentially leaving. Mason Mount has come in the door. Are we seeing another midfielder arrive at Old Trafford, or the focus definitely shifts to goalkeeper and striker?
I think that it'll come down to who goes out. If one of McTominay or Fred leave, I could say, don't be surprised if there's I wouldn't be surprised if there's a player who is integrated into the first team who probably wasn't part of the first team last year. I think that's also a really important component for us as United fans to remember. Players like Ahmad, outside chance is Charlie Savage, I've got to be honest, just because of the pure lack of quality depth. Kobe Mainu, we saw given football. I'm assuming now everything I've seen of Kobe Mainu suggests he's in for he's gearing up for preseason. He wants to make a big impression. Everything shows he's been in the gym. He's really working hard. Now, in terms of ability, I think Kobe Mainu has everything to make it at the top level. He's a young kid. But if one of Fred or McTominay leave, maybe Kobe Mainu's the solution. Maybe he plays 30 games next season. So
I'm starting to think, well, we see him heavily now. Does this give us a sign that he's going to be starting or featuring heavily next season? I'm not sure. But in regards to preseason, I think he's going to be getting a lot of minutes. We remember Iqbal and Savage; they were the young players who got minutes. I think Kobe Mainu will get. He'll be playing in, especially the first game against Wrexham. I don't know our first game, but especially that youth game against Wrexham, I think he'll be almost the captain, almost thing, and it'll be up for him to take his chance. Because look at Eric Ten Hag. I've been so mixed. I've liked it, but I've also had sort of questions around Eric Ten Hag's management of the youngsters. As I said, I have enjoyed it. I have liked it. I've liked the honesty in regards to you only get your chance if you are good enough and you apply yourself. But I also think, well, you do need your chance eventually, sort of thing. So I do see both sides of the coin with Eric Ten Hag's treatment of the youngsters. But there is going to come a time. Now, he has thrown Garnacho in. Garnacho definitely does go into the youngster category, but maybe an exception. Yeah, but he's also that. He was kind of already tipped before Eric Ten Hag came in to be that sort of, I don't want to say superstar, but he was the next cab off the rank. He was always slow. He's already been slowly integrated into the first team setup behind the scenes. Eric Ten Hag hasn't brought anyone from the youth team into the first team setup besides, let's say, your Kobe Mainu. So it's going to happen eventually.
That's really fair. I don't think that's fair to Ten Hag. I got it, that's not a knock at you, mate.
Oh, no, not criticising him. Just it hasn't happened yet. He's this youth manager, which again, it's the furthest thing from a criticism of Eric Ten Hag.
Kobe Mainu at 17 years of age in a midfield in a quarter-final in the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, I talk about consistently bringing, like at Ajax, you could see a 17-year-old making 30 appearances at Ajax. I'm just, and that's impossible at Manchester United. I'm just saying we just haven't seen that yet. Not to criticise him at all. Just we haven't seen that young player come in. I think Garnacho kind of goes in that category.
I got this sneaky suspicion that there might be a surprise packet to come out of preseason. I've had a really big rap on the. I saw a chunk of him last year. I'm not going to say I saw a lot of him because I haven't, but I saw enough from the Norwegian midfielder. What's his name?
Isaac Hansen. Yeah, he's the player for me. He's a number 10. I think he's had 2 sort of sleeve tattoos at the age of 11, it looks like. He only looks like a young boy. But he is a player. He's a ball just glued to his feet. He does look a player. Now, that area of the pitch, is he going to find his way in at Manchester United? I think maybe not. But Eric Ten Hag, you obviously see him in all the sort of trainings. He's obviously in and around the team. So I'd like to see him on pre-season, definitely.
Well, yeah, like that's the I think... Don't get me wrong, like the solution won't be in all the kids, but what I'm saying is if United's depth is covered by like someone like a Kobe Mainu who can play, let's say 20 games next season, and then you get someone on a free, I think that's okay. And I think there are players that United could get on the cheap in midfield who are an upgrade on Fred and or McTominay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the final solution is. But like, even if there's not transfer budget constraints, just look at the size of the squad. I think Ten Hag, understandably, would need players to leave. Otherwise, you end up in a situation like Chelsea, where you've got 35 first-team players, and you can't even run a training session because you've got too many players. So, yeah, there's very much a case of United do need players to leave. Forget the budget constraints or whatever, just for team harmony and keeping everything balanced. So, I've got to be. I think my hunch is it's going to be Fred. I don't know why, but despite everything that I think, which is Ten Hag clearly prefers Fred, Fred seems to be the one that looks the more likely to go outside him and McTominay at the moment. So I could very much see that happening.
Yeah, look, I believe you'd have to sell one, like just from a business and my view of football. I'll be selling Fred before McTominay, but I'm in a very sort of small minority there. But just one name to wrap up the podcast, Larry. In regards to these young players coming through, I think we've both got high, more so hopes for Kobe Mainu. We haven't seen him sort of perform at the senior level. Someone who has performed at the senior level. Box brings up Hannibal and Alanga need to go in the summer. But Tom and Chris saying they both want to see Hannibal given a go. Obviously performed well at Birmingham. I'm just thinking that year of
he'll make it at United.
But do you think whether he makes it or not? Yeah, it's going to be a very uphill task. But do you think he gets given the chance on pre-season or?
Yeah, of course he'll get given a chance, but he's got the ability. He's just another one where he's got the ability, but like to be a youngster and make it United, you need so many things to fall your way. I can remember, what season was it? It was during the Louis Van Gaal era. Do you remember the likes of like Donald Love who got a debut, and around there you had Tuanzebe who made a debut, and
I remember Timothy Fosu-Mensah, James Weir played in that game against Arsenal.
all these young players.
Paddy McNair, Tyler Blackett.
Paddy McNair, yeah, you're right. And all these players that easily could have had successful careers at United, but the margins are so fine. Fosu-Mensah, man, if you told me at 18 whether he'd be a mainstay of United's midfield, I would have told you to put your house on it. But injuries ruined him, and by the time he got back in, good player, by the way. Like he plays for Bayer Leverkusen. That's still a good career in Europe. But to make it at United is really difficult. And Hannibal...
I'll tell you what, you mentioned Timothy Fosu-Mensah there. I always sort of cut back, and he was earlier in the discussion in regards to Pau Torres. Whenever we mention Pau Torres, I always bring up my Football Manager save where I won the treble, and Pau Torres was my centre-back. My midfield trio in that season, talk about Manchester United Academy players, Paul Pogba, Timothy Fosu-Mensah, and Angel Gomez.
Perfect. Angel Gomez, another one. If someone said to you he's going to make at 16, will he play for Manchester United? Yeah. You'd snap your arm off to say yeah. But like that's the point. Being talented isn't enough. And even if you're talented enough, you need your opportunity. And when you get that opportunity, you have to take it. Let's not forget, Paul Pogba didn't make it the first time around. Like, good player, obviously, but you need it. It's such fine margins. And if Louis Van Gaal, like Rashford is a perfect example of perfect place at the perfect time. Because if there was any other manager in charge of Manchester United at that time, I'm pretty confident in telling you Rashford wouldn't have made it as a Manchester United player.
No, look, you're right. A lot of it does come down to timing and luck, and it is one of those things. No doubt about it. But
it should have been James Wilson. If you look at how Rashford got his debut, James Wilson should have been what Rashford is. But look at the career differences. Look,
I remember James Wilson started. We beat Liverpool one game 3-0 at Old Trafford. I remember one matter, Robin Van Persie. Forget who got the other goal, maybe Wayne Rooney, I'm not sure. Beat 3-0 at Old Trafford. James Wilson started up front against Liverpool under Louis Van Gaal.
Was it okay? Who got injured when Rashford got his debut against Midtjylland? Someone was due to start who went down.
Well, it was Anthony Martial was out, and then Will Keane was the subject. Will Keane was ready to come on and got injured in the warm-up. Or whether Will Keane was ready to start and Martial got injured in the warm-up, I'm not sure. But Martial and Will Keane were the two players. The rest is history for Marcus Rashford, no doubt about that. Tom, here, we'll start to wrap up now. Maybe an unpopular opinion, despite his terrific season at Sunderland, I still don't rate Diallo. I don't think he'll make it. If I'm a betting man, I don't see a future at Old Trafford. But in terms of what he's producing at Sunderland, you definitely have to afford him the chance and give him that sort of stage. Whether he takes it, fingers crossed he can. Probably not unpopular with me. I would agree, Tom, but
mature assessment from both of you, Toms, because you're right. I think the fans saying, "Oh, he killed at Sunderland, give him a right into United's team." I think that's a bit premature. He has to go now do it at a Premier League level. The thing with Ahmad is he's shown he can handle the physicality, which is good, but again, there's a step up then from the Championship to the Premiership, and I think another one who will get a chance if he destroys. I gotta say, I thought Ahmad did actually look good in preseason last year.
Actually, every time he's played for Man United, even under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer once or twice, and then that preseason, he actually does do quite well for Man United.
Yeah, because technically he's brilliant, but it's it all needs to come together. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it's 50-50. I don't think he's a guarantee to go, but I don't think he's a guarantee to stay either.
You talked about my age earlier, and a lot of this discussion around the midfield has been in regards to one's age. I'll just bring up here in regards to confirmation from the Premier League, or in regards to a Premier League bit of discussion. Roy Hodgson is staying on at Crystal Palace. I'm shocked. I thought surely just let him go on and enjoy his life. Getting him involved in Premier League management now is just all the best to him. But surely
he retire when he left Palace last time.
I thought he retired. That was a full retirement. He's like one of those fighters who retires after every fight so they can have their comeback fight. He's always coming back for his comeback job sort of thing. But look, fair play to him. But you hope he stays
How
healthy.
old is he, Roy Hodgson? He has to be well into his 70s, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure how it is, but look, fair play to him. He obviously loves the game. If he enjoys doing what he's doing, more power to him. But look, have enjoyed that chat, Larry. Scrolling through Twitter, Mason Mount is not official yet. You would assume he's probably doing all these photo shoots and interviews as of now. And look, if Manchester United are a well-run club, would have that information, all that content out within the next 2 hours. We know it's probably going to take a week for that to come out, unfortunately. That's the way they do. When do you think Mason Mount is announced? He's in there currently now.
Genuinely, if you want me to answer that question, not before Thursday our time.
But does that frustrate you in regards to we know he's there, we know he's sort of doing everything?
No, not really.
It shouldn't frustrate me, but it does.
Well, it shouldn't. I get it. Look, Manchester United is the most. What's the word I'm looking for? Forgive me. I was just complaining to you about my lack of sleep before we went live, wasn't I? Manchester United there's such interest in the football club that you pretty much find out about every single player before it happens. I remember when Romano broke Ronaldo signing for United the second time around. It's massive. But because it was Ronaldo, I think United kind of had their hand got forced, and I think they had to kind of do it. But if they had it their way, I mean, they got him to hop into a studio in Portugal to do some sort of photo shoot with the jersey, if you remember. It wasn't even at Carrington. So so you get an idea of how quickly they realize, crap, we got to get something out. So I mean, it's just the nature of the beast that is Manchester United, with the likes of Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein and Laurie Whitwell and so forth, which we clamour for, by the way. But with these journalists and their links into the know, someone always knows about something before it happens.
No doubt about that. Also, just saying, I don't know if Newcastle have confirmed it, but Romano here has confirmed that Tonali is official. I'm assuming that means Newcastle have officially announced. Obviously, a good sign-in for Newcastle. And look, another player at the table in regards to sort of a top four challenge. I'd love nothing more, in terms of Newcastle fans have got on my nerve over the last 12 months. I'd love nothing more than to see them have a bad season. So that obviously adds a bit more excitement to the weekend. Obviously, when the weekend comes around, you look at who all the big teams are playing. But now you've got another game to look forward to.
He's 23. I thought he was older than that. Tonali.
He's been around a while. Obviously, started quite young, and look, high hopes for him in regards to what they have at Newcastle. So I don't want to say good luck to him, but yeah, crack on. But George saying Roy Hodgson confirmed 1 more year. But Larry, it's been a pleasure. As I said, everyone in the live chat as well. Do appreciate everyone's interaction and opinions. Any good discussions today, different opinions, which is always good. Make sure you are subscribed and hit that notification bell, because look, who knows? Larry's just sort of predicted maybe Thursday, so it might be a while. But Mason Mount can be made official anytime. And look, we know, sorry, the excitement there. We know Mason Mount's official. We know Mason Mount is done. But there's something that hits different when he's holding up a team photo or the team's shirt or the scarf, whatever.
Do you think he takes the 19?
That's what I've heard. He'll take Varane's number if Phil Jones actually relinquishes the number 4 shirt, which I could still see Phil Jones having the 4 shirt next season.
He's left. He's announced he's left United.
Yeah, I know. He'll take it. Well, I could see him taking it with him, and just Rafael Varane being stuck with number 19.
That's hilarious. I think Varane will take 4, and I could very much see Mount taking the 19 shirt.
Team, my real issue with the current squad numbers at the moment.
What?
Which I would change. First thing, if I'm a Qatari owner and I'm coming in, I like Victor Lindelof. Get rid of number 2.
The centre back should not be 2.
Give that to a fullback, please. And I think that would solve so many issues. Then you give him 4, or you give him 5, whatever. And then you give your Delo or Wan-Bissaka number 2.
He's number 5 at the moment. Do we even have a 5?
Captain Fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh.
I know the only reason I remember that because I was thinking the other day, who is the number 5? And I thought the last one to have was Marcus Rojo. But I was obviously Aaron Maguire. But
jeez,
look, until then, we do appreciate everyone joining us. As I say, if we are awake and we do go live, please do leave or hit the notification bell so you can join us and sort of get all your opinions heard. And we do appreciate it. Larry and I do enjoy talking to each other, but when we hit this with 1 or 2 other opinions, it does flow the conversation. So very much appreciated. Enjoy your day or night wherever you are, and Larry and I will chat to you in a bit. Until then, cheers.
Cheers.